I am a proud abolitionist. I believe in an end to incarceration systems and policing.
I've been incarcerated since 2013.
I thought crime was normal because I didn't know anything different, right?
I've been here since 2016.
Race and class had created these conditions to where my family was so stressed and why they turned to drugs and alcohol.
This is work that's been work of 4 centuries.
We've been able to get a lot of the Green Hill guys on this national committee.
We need different ways to help our youth.
So we can advocate for different policies that impact youth.
I'm ecstatic to know that policy is being built by those most impacted.
Just us three.
We got 3 more coming.
Throughout the 2021 legislative session, students at Green Hill School, involved with TVW's Capital Classroom program, worked with their volunteer lobbyist, Carolyn Logue,
Where's Aaron?
to advocate for the passage of House Bill 1186, a bill that would expand transitional services concerning juvenile rehabilitation within the community.
So kind of just be thinking of some questions you want to ask of legislators. And
On the day before the final passage in the legislature, they met with one of the bill sponsors, Representative Kirsten Harris-Talley,
Harris-Talley's going to come in
and discuss the broader issue of criminal justice reform. Afterwards, they were visited by Representative Tarra Simmons of the 23rd District,
Tarra Simmons is going to jump in closer.
who spoke of her own experiences with the criminal justice system as the first convicted felon to be elected to the state legislature.
What I'll do is have each of you introduce yourselves.
Civil discourse and thoughtful discussion is at the heart of the Capital Classroom program, and we are delighted to bring you their conversations here.
Both of them supported the bill. The bill is right now, I'm kind of waiting to hear, and maybe they'll have an answer about where the bill is in the process. I haven't heard it's not going to get a concurrence vote. So it passed the Senate, but the Senate amended it. So now what they need to do is decide if they're going to concur, which means agree with the Senate amendment, or not concur, which at that point, the House then sends the bill back to the Senate and either asks the Senate to get rid of their amendment or says, let's go to conference and come up, or get rid of their amendment and put a new amendment on. That can happen. Or asked to go to what's called a conference committee. And anyhow, so that's what's going to happen. But it looks like Representative Harris-Talley is here. So let's bring her in. It looks like I have control, so I can admit her. There you are.
Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Representative Harris-Talley, first of all, thank you for coming on here. This is this year's cohort of Green Hill School classroom guys that I work with, and we've been working for some time, started 3 years ago with the JRA to 25 bill. Worked really hard on that. And this year their bill was House Bill 1186, which of course then allows them to go to the community, go out into the community and do programs and vocational, maybe get jobs and that type of thing, while still under. I mean, I think that's, we were talking about that some time ago. Sometimes some of the floor speeches made it sound like they were just going to be let loose. No, they're not. They're still going to be out there, so, and still be under supervision. But I wanted to first have them introduce themselves to you. They're a very impressive group of young men. Don't tell them I said that. But they're a very impressive group of young men who, when I ask them to testify, every time they testify or do anything, I'm always like, I wish I could get all my clients to do this. But I'll let them maybe, I don't know, maybe one of you can, when you're introducing yourself, can also talk a little bit about your group within Green Hill. So Michael, you want to start?
Yeah, all right. Hi, my name is Michael. I've actually just started this group, but I was here when it was originally started up, and I didn't get in at first. I've been incarcerated for about 7.5 years now, but I get out next month.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah, I'm one of the ones that came back from DLC. Thank everybody for that, by the way.
Yeah.
I was a super help.
Got to benefit from the bill that was passed a few years ago, so that's great.
Benefited a lot, extremely.
So you had been in those 7 years transferred to DOC and then got to come back after the change 2 years ago, went into effect last year, it sounds like.
Yes. Yep.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Well, congratulations. I hope you have a warm welcome when you're on the outside, and would love to stay connected to all of you, but particularly during that transition for you.
Definitely. All right.
Okay, Chris, you want to be next?
Yeah, my name is Chris. Yeah, I just started this group as well. I've only been here a little over a year. Yeah, I know Aaron's been doing this for a while, and we're in the same unit, so kind of just showed me the ropes and whatnot, showed me what to do, and you know, yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been here for a little bit over a year, locked up for about 2, and just trying to you know, support these bills, advocate.
Thank you for that work. It's making a huge difference.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Anytime. I am from DOC, but I was not. I did not come back from like an adult facility. I came straight from county, then to Shelby right here after the bill was passed. So,
All right.
My name's Aaron. I've been here so I've been locked up since 2014. I think I've been here since 2016. So I've been here since 2016. So yeah.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry. I had like the worst migraine, so my brain is kind of fried. But
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, so our committee here started up a few years ago, and we've been, as you can see, we've been working with legislators and trying to get bills passed. I think our biggest bill really was the 25 law, and the first one was, well, I'm pretty sure you know, the first one wasn't retroactive, and then the second one was retroactive. So that was a really big win for all of us. To see others affected before we were even affected by the bill. So I think that was a big thing for us, was just, you know, was worried about everyone else who's coming in after us. And then we'll think about ourselves, you know. But we've been doing other things outside of legislation since we started. We've been doing like local issues like within our facility. So we've been, you know, dealing with like treatment. We even met our own staff training, kind of better our situation or our communication with staff. Just different things like that, small tweaks in like our commissary and stuff. But with the guys from DOC coming back, it's been a kind of different environment, because now we have people that are from an adult environment coming down and, you know, showing us like, you know, these are good things that happen when we were in DOC that would work really good here in Green Hill. And so it's been nice to see that go on. Other than that, that's about it. Oh, and so I also was a part of this group called the EOC with CJJ, Coalition for Juvenile Justice. About like 3 years ago, I think. 3 years ago, me and another guy who was over here who got out, me and him applied for a spot on the Emerging Leaders Committee, and we got both of them, and so we were able to serve on that committee for a couple of years, and then I went ahead and applied for the chair position, and then an executive board member spot. So I was able to get on that for CJJ, which is based out in Washington, D.C. And so for a few years, this is my second year this year being the chair for that committee. So those are other things. I know last year we had about four other guys who were on the ELC. This year we have 3 new guys that are on the ELC. So yeah, during that time, we've been able to get a lot of the Green Hill guys on this national committee. so we can, network with other people, get with other youth, and, advocate for different policies or issues that impact youth. So other than local and in our state, we've been doing national work too.
Yeah, that's great. And Aaron was also one of the ones, if you've been we all have to watch TVW 100 million hours a day right now, that documentary on that first bill, the JRA 25 bill, pops up. Aaron was one of the ones who was in that documentary, but also got to go to the governor's office and stand there for the signing. So, it was kind of a cool day. We're kind of hoping we could do that again this year, but I don't think it'll work. So Representative Harris-Talley, do you want to just kind of maybe talk about yourself? And then I don't know, I told them to think of some questions, or if you've got questions for them.
No, I think that's wonderful. It's wonderful to meet all three of you. And I hope I get to meet, some more of the folks who are part of this group and doing this work. I'm ecstatic to know that policy is being built by those most impacted. And Kirsten Harris-Talley, she, her pronouns, and I am the newest member of the delegation here in the 37th legislative district, which includes Renton, Skyway, and Southeast Seattle. The 37th, until the census tells us otherwise, is the most diverse legislative district in Washington state, which also means we're one of the most over-policed districts in Washington state. I've been part of the No New Youth Jail movement, the Block the Bunker movement. I am a proud abolitionist. I believe in an end incarceration systems and policing because I believe in an end in slavery. And until that happens, we will not have an end of slavery in this country. So come with that sort of orientation to the work. And I come from 20 years of working beside community and with community and activism in reproductive justice, policing justice, environmental justice, and economic justice. So I'm really proud to have my neighbors elevate me to this role to represent them in the work. I'm vice chair of the Children, Youth, and Families Committee. And as you know, a lot of the policies you all have been talking through, we've been able to champion through that committee. And I've had a particular focus on juvenile justice and rehabilitation issues with a sharp focus on moving away from incarceration systems. I actually have a proviso this year looking at our electronic monitoring systems for youth because there is not a shared definition or analysis around how electronic monitoring is utilized with young people in our state. And we need to know a lot more because of course the expansion of policing in the new Jim Crow is actually in electronic monitoring and less in the brick and mortar monitoring. So keeping a close eye on what that means for Washington state. And I also serve on the finance committee where we get to make decisions about revenue and tax policy, which I always have an intersectional lens of how do we make sure that those considerations get dollars and resources to communities of color and other impacted communities. And then I also serve on the Environment and Energy Committee where we talk about climate change, converting to electric and sustainable energy. And I also keep a very close eye on our Public Safety Committee because of my policing justice work. So I'm a mom of 2 kids. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. We're figuring out the balance of all of this while we're legislating from home. And my kids are downstairs right now, may pop into view at some point. And I'm the oldest of 4 kids and grew up in a impoverished rural area. So have a lot of intersections of things I think through when we think about policy. And this policy, I will say 1186 is a really strong policy. And I just thank you all for the work on that. Myself and the Prime Goodman worked very closely on it through committee and really worked to strengthen it and make sure that we had as much protections in place. And I think definitely I'm keeping a sharp eye across all policy that the considerations of defining youth as 25 or younger be sort of the standard across policies. And as you know, it's an uneven terrain right now what the definition of young people is and what that means for our systems. So really excited to hopefully collaborate with you all and others in the future on good policy that we should be making sure gets through our committee and passes. Until we stop incarceration, we need to make sure that folks who are incarcerated are treated with the respect you deserve. So I appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions for Representative Harris-Talley?
Yeah. These guys might know this, but like I said, I just kind of started and I'm not sure. How would I be able to push for different policies or for things to get approved once I get released?
So different offices work different ways, but where we are right now, because we're at the top of the biennium, which means we're at the first year of the 2 years in which all of our policy decisions and how they link to the budget are having decisions made right now. A lot of folks have introduced policy now that they're going to continue to be working on through interim to introduce and keep pushing for next year's, right? So anything that didn't pass both chambers and get through, we're all going to continue to work on. So you're welcome to hook up with our office or other members' offices to work directly on policy. I'm actually going to be working with some of the folks who are incarcerated at DOC through the Black Prisoners Caucus, for instance, on some policy priorities. I know Representative Simmons, who you're going to get to chat with later, is also working on a number of policies. Rep. Goodman, Rep. Hackney. So there's actually a little coalition of us now who are all working together. So you're welcome to work with any one of our offices. Also, for the 37th district in Southeast Seattle, there's a group, EOC, Emerald Youth Organizing Collective, who are starting to do a lot of policy work. We're actually going to be working on some truancy, school to prison pipeline policy work together over interim. And there's also Decrim Seattle and Mutual Aid Seattle, who are also starting to do some state level policy work. So you could also work with any of those community groups, and they're working in partnership with some of our offices too. But I'm happy to hook any of y'all up with whoever you all need to chat with. Happy to make some email introductions, whatever's helpful for that, to make that path easy.
Okay, amazing. Thank you.
And I can help with that too, because maybe it might be worthwhile, Michael, before you get out, or maybe right after, we can even look at maybe setting up a meeting with several people, because I know you guys have ideas. So it might be good to talk to people about what those ideas are.
Okay.
All right. Chris?
I want us to know, what do you guys think about the amendment concerning Bill 1186? Amendment 25, I believe, talking about like youth with murder charges wouldn't be eligible for these communities, like these community facilities.
Yeah, and I think that was introduced on the Senate side, right? So
no, that was Representative Graham's amendment on the floor of the House.
Oh, that was the floor piece that that got through.
Yep.
Let me look at that piece. Amendment 25.
I'm not sure that survived the Ways and Means Amendment.
I was going to say, I don't know that it did either. I think it's 285, right? Is the one you're referring to?
I think
I'm
so.
pretty sure on the floor.
286.
Oh, it might have been 286. Okay. I knew she had two that were introduced on the floor. Yeah, I mean, we, as you all may have seen, I don't know if you watched our committee conversations about this bill, but we batted away some very similar amendments through committee as they came through and voted them all down. Rep. Goodman, myself, and others were really standing on the consideration that evidence has not shown that the crime that someone was entangled with that brought them on the inside makes any difference in consideration once they have review of release or early release. And so, we just keep coming back to that data. I know it was unfortunate seeing this. The definition was a little vague, as it also added this persistent offender piece, which is a very vague term. Now, I don't know that any of us really know how such a thing would be defined or implemented sort of evenly. So my understanding is that is part of the consideration. It will stick to this bill or not.
I'm looking at the bill as it passed the Senate. Those two pieces, both the persistent offender and if you've been adjudicated of murder in the first or second degree, are still in it. And I know that these guys had a huge problem with that because of the fact that, who was it, Michael? Who was it had the recidivism rates for?
I believe it was me.
You, Chris? Okay.
I was surprised it hung on the floor.
Me too. I was too. And it didn't come out in the Senate. I communicated with Senator Darnielle and we communicated a few times and it just they didn't seem to want to take it out in the Senate. So definitely something to work on moving forward in this bill.
Yep.
And what concurrence will look like, I'm not sure, but I am more than happy to go back to Rep. Goodman because he will have a voice in that, and to Chair Sen, being the vice chair of the committee that went through, to check on what concurrence is looking like. Because if we want to say that we don't concur, I know that looks a little different sometimes when the amendment hangs in the House of Origin. So some of those conversations will probably be ongoing.
And it may be, guys, as it happens sometimes, you kind of have to swallow this to get the policy going. And then once the policy is going, you can start to add things to it, so it's just sometimes you sort of want to get the program going and get the policy going, and then you can start to say, hey, look, we can do this and we can do that and add this to it, because you already have that program in place and people are feeling more comfortable about it.
It's a great question. Also, welcome to those who joined.
Yeah. Why don't you tell Representative Harris-Talley about yourself?
My name is Guillermo. I've been at Green Hills since 2017 and on the youth council since 2018 from Everett, Washington. Yeah,
Lovely to meet you.
I'm 19. I've been here at Green Hills since 2018. And I kind of just started serving on the youth committee this past year.
Anyone else have any questions for Representative Harris-Talley? Aaron, I know you're not feeling great.
Yeah, I got a question. So you've been doing like this work for a while. Do you ever look back at your old work and like, I don't know, think about like, what am I trying to say? Do you ever look at your old work and just be like, what was I doing back then? Or just have questions about what you're talking about?
About my abolition work, you mean, specifically?
Just in general, like what you've done. Do you ever just like go back and look at your old work and just kind of criticize yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think for me, my journey in abolition work is always ongoing. I always really root myself right that this is work that's been work of 4 centuries, and our information about it and the analysis of it is deepening all the time. Even as someone who doesn't believe that prisons are the solution, I really struggle with it when it comes with considerations of accountability for police, right? I think seeing Dante Wright's murder, the continuation of murder of unarmed Black people by police, right, is a tension point in that, because what does accountability look like if I don't believe incarceration is the solution to those who should be protecting everyone? And certainly I can look back at decisions I've made or the sphere of analysis I had then that wasn't as deep as what I have now, and think of ways I would have made a decision differently with the knowledge I have now. So definitely, I'm someone, I think, I never make decisions independently. That's one of the things that's so different about being a legislator than in activism circles. In activism circles, you have this built-in council of voices that you're always referring back to each other. And that's something I've had to build with a lot of intentionality in a legislative role, because folks don't come to us as a collective. They just come to me as an individual and say, what's the decision you're going to make? And so I always try to take pause and make sure that those most impacted, that what their needs are in the moment are articulated and acted on. And we can go back, I think, even in movement work where collectives have made a decision and go, oh, wow, we made a decision on this and it didn't have the outcome that we wanted. So sometimes, certainly in hindsight, I think is the only way to know when you've made a mistake sometimes. I try to work in my personal life and my professional life from a place, not of apology, but of amends. And amends is threefold. It starts with an apology, because an apology has to acknowledge that I made a mistake. But I also then have to go and try to make it right if I can for those who were negatively impacted by that mistake. And the third and most important piece is to never have that happen again and figure out what needs to change in the behavior and the way I came to those decisions so it never happens again. So yeah, certainly. And I appreciate that question, because I would say any legislator who tells you they never reflect back or critique the way they do their work probably needs to take pause and rethink, because the decisions we make have impacts and they're not always positive. So we should look critically at those for sure, I think. Well, that's how I live my life anyway. What made you ask and think of that question?
Nah, because sometimes I just like think about some like old stuff that I did, or like I would say, and I'm just like, yeah, that probably wouldn't have been said if I was knowing that, you know, either it sounded dumb or just wasn't myself.
Yeah, I think that's just part of the human experience, isn't it? And that's why I think the amends model is so important, the 3 tenets of amends that I try to live by, because to err is human. That's part of the human experience. And for me, it's about what do we do in those moments that really shows the mark of someone's character. So I appreciate you asking that and thinking that through as well.
Also, one of the things I've talked about with them on testifying. Don't be afraid. You know your story. You know your story. So there's really, if you don't say it the way you thought you said it, I mean, every single one of us goes back and goes, well, I should have said this and I should have said that. So, or maybe I could have said this differently. So you're not unusual.
No, and I think that, right, like I spent a lot of years having a goal of perfection and it wasn't serving me and it wasn't serving my neighbors. I'd rather have reflection than perfection any day. And I'd rather be vulnerable and admit my faults. I've always found that authenticity is more important than anything else. Yeah, so I agree with you, certainly, Carolyn. And every time I've seen y'all show up, you all show up 110%. So I hope you don't spend too much time critiquing anything you've ever said in testimony. It's always been motivating and insightful every time I've witnessed it. So thank you for that work.
I don't know how much more time we have from you. This has been amazing. Anybody else have one last question? I saw somebody else popped in the room. He probably needs to introduce themselves.
Nah, he just got out to go grab something.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate all of you and thank you for your work and continued work. I am going to leave my office contact information in the chat. Please reach out, let your family and loved ones know as well. I'm putting myself and my legislative assistants. You'll always want to include them so that they can keep us connected. But I just, again, appreciate all the work that you all are doing to make good change for yourselves and other young people in our state. It means a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to let Representative Simmons in. So we'll do the same thing. We'll just go down and have you all introduce yourself, and then we'll have her talk. Okay?
Right.
Now, just to remind you, Representative Simmons was actually incarcerated. So that's her story. She was actually incarcerated. She's now an attorney. There you are. Get unmuted.
Am I unmuted? Hi,
You're
everyone.
You're unmuted now.
Yay.
Representative Simmons, I'm Carolyn Logue. This is the Green Hill School class that I work with as part of the TVW Classroom Connect, and we really appreciate you getting a chance to come on here today. What I want to do is I'm going to have them go kind of down the line and introduce themselves and kind of tell a little bit about who they are, and then let you kind of introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your story. But these guys have been working on House Bill 1186 this year, and we started about 3 years ago working on the Juvenile Rehabilitation till age 25 bill. And that passed the first year, and then the second year we got the ability to go retrospective or retroactive, I guess. I don't know which word would work. So let's start. Who wants to start down there?
I will.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm 21. I've been incarcerated since 2013. I'm one of the individuals who was transferred back from DOC. I was here before, but then I went up to DOC and came back. I'm really thankful for that. And yeah, I get out next month and trying to continue working with you guys if I can.
Wonderful. It's nice to meet you, Michael.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
My name is Guillermo. I'm 21 years old. I've been here at Greenville since 2017 and a member of the youth council since 2018. And I'm from Everett, Washington.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, my name is Chris. I've only been here a little over a year. I just started working with this committee, trying to advocate for these bills. I'm 19. I was able to come here instead of going straight to DOC because of the bill that was passed. So thank you for that. We're just trying to continue advocating and getting these bills passed.
Yeah, great. It's nice to see you.
My name's Aaron. I've been here since 2016. I've been able to work on the different bills that we've been able to pass or help pass and support through legislation. And yeah, I've been on this committee since it began. So then it's been a nice journey to experience all this.
Great. I'm glad you're here.
So Representative Simmons, do you want to introduce yourself and then we can kind of have some questions for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a new representative just elected. I represent Kitsap County, Bremerton, and Paulsbo, Bainbridge Island. My path here has been, similar in a lot of ways. I first was locked up when I was 13 years old. I came from generational cycles of poverty, violence, incarceration. My father is Mexican and we lived in a very diverse neighborhood in Stockton, California. I lived in the projects. I think I ran away first when I was like 11 years old. I lived on the streets. I was homeless. I was trafficked as a young girl. I became a mom at 15 years old. My children are biracial. They're African American. I have two sons now. One is 28 and one's 18. But I, cycled in and out of juvenile detention, jail, and prison. And when I got out of prison 8 years ago, I recognized, the adverse childhood experiences, the oppression and the trauma that my whole entire family had gone through. I was the first person to ever even graduate high school in my family, and I understood how race and class had created these conditions to where my family was so stressed and why they turned to drugs and alcohol and why we grew up in this lifestyle where I thought crime was normal because I didn't know anything different, right? I remember, at 12 and 13 years old being with my friends. I wanted to be a gang member too, right? But it was different for me because I was white, very white passing, but all my friends were people of color. But it was really hard just growing up in this environment in Stockton, California. But I remember at 12 years old was the first time I was in a vehicle when we did a drive-by, right? Like that's just the life I came from. And I didn't know different because my family never knew different. But when I went to prison, I realized, I had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to review how I ended up there. And I wanted different for my two sons, And so I really started to realize that my thinking and my experiences were not conducive to a healthy environment. And I decided I wanted to go to law school and I wanted to figure out how to change these laws that continue to create generational cycles of trauma and incarceration. And so I went to law school when I got out of prison. I got out in 2013. I went to law school in 2014. And I just really every single day, relied on my faith and my recovery community and my support system, and just took every opportunity I could to sit on every advisory council, every commission, every board, and do every externship. And I created this network of legal practitioners, prosecutors, defenders, judges, people in my recovery community, all these people came together to support me. And I just kept doing the next right thing every day, even when it was hard, even when I had barriers. I reached out and I got help and navigated all those. I graduated from law school. They wouldn't let me sit for the bar exam because of my criminal history. I have 6 felonies. I have 2 strikes and drugs and possession of a firearm, 2 assault in the second degrees. I have a really bad record. If you look at my record, you know, it's like, and they wouldn't let me sit for the bar exam. But fortunately, everybody knew who I was because I had been connected and I had so many people stand up for me. And we fought to the Supreme Court of Washington, and the Supreme Court ruled that I could become an attorney. So that was like a really good thing, right? And then based on all of that, I also created a nonprofit, which is other formerly incarcerated people coming together to fight to change these laws in Olympia. And I have been doing that in Olympia, advocating for things like New Hope Act, for post-conviction review boards. Haven't done a lot on the juvenile side. I've been doing most of my advocacy on the adult side, legal financial obligations and other things. But I met all of these lawmakers, all these legislators, and my legislator was retiring. And so she asked me if I would consider running for her seat. And, you know, at first I thought, man, you know, the politics is horrible. And like, I had already been like sent out on a campaign mailer before to attack my friend who supported me and like all this stuff. I didn't really want to do it, but I knew if I didn't do it and break this glass ceiling and bring this perspective to Olympia, that who else would ever have the opportunity to do it? Like I was well positioned to break this concrete ceiling. So I decided to run, and I'm so glad that I got there, because now, you know, when we are in our caucus meetings and we're talking about, like, for example, 1186, before we go to the floor and before we vote on it on the floor, we've already had these full discussions, you know, all the legislators together. And I can talk about why we shouldn't exclude children with a homicide conviction in that bill, right? I don't know if you watched that floor debate. There was 38 of us that did not want that amendment, right? And I can tell you, because we're talking about reentry, and we're talking, you know, we've already had the sentencing done at the sentencing phase, but you know, it's just, there's so many times where I lean on my personal lived experiences and talk about the, you know, the circumstances that folks are in when they actually do commit a crime, but the power of rehabilitation and changing our minds, right? And, you know, learning new behaviors. People are not looking, it's not about a second chance. I know for all of you right now today, this is a first chance for you. I know that you didn't come from wealth and a family that was just perfect and you had all kinds of educational opportunities. I know the majority of people that end up incarcerated are really needing a first chance when they come home. And we need to understand the conditions of what leads to behavior that leads to incarceration. And so I'm glad that I can be there to share those experiences of me, my family, my friends, and the community that I came from in shaping these policies, because it's not something that any other legislator has. No other legislator has been incarcerated. And I hope that more people will run for office one day. I love that you're getting out soon, Michael. I would love to continue to work with you. I hope one day you run for office, because I can't represent everybody's voice, but I can try my best. And I am just so excited to meet you all. I served on the Reentry Council for 4 years, and we did come to Green Hill. I think it was, well, not last year because COVID happened, like right before COVID, we came to Green Hill. I'm sure I met some of you when we came down there and had our council meeting. Oh, maybe Michael, you were at DOC and you just got to come back, but some of you might have been there. But I've been doing this work and I'm excited to learn more. I'm excited to work on some juvenile rehabilitation stuff. I've been talking to friends about like emerging adults and things like that, you know, making sure folks under 25 are just kept in the JRA system for life, but also, you know, building out alternatives to incarceration. I know that youth need love and a family and support, and incarceration is not helping that. It's another adverse childhood experience that we have to then unpack. So we need different ways to help our youth. And really that's what motivated me to run. I didn't want to just work on reentry anymore. I really want to work on how school resource officers are arresting our kids and really get more upstream. Because I mean, that's happened to my two sons, you know, and we have a pretty good life now. I own a home finally. We have some savings. We can like go on vacations. You know, we're not in poverty anymore. And my two sons are, like I said, they're biracial. They've been targeted. They've been pulled over. They've been harmed by police. My son like drew some stuff on the freaking school and went and told on himself after I found out, thinking he could make it like clean it up. And school resource officer arrested him, charged him with malicious mischief. This is where it all breaks down too. So we need to make sure our systems are trauma informed and caring for our youth early and preventing what's happened to you to happen to others. And you all have a strong voice in this movement. So when you come home, I hope that you do continue to be involved.
Thank you. We missed somebody on the introductions, DeMonte. I think you're over there eating your food. Did I get you when your mouth's full?
My name is Ron. I'm 19 years
Rod,
old.
okay.
I've been here at Green Hills since 2018. I've been serving on this youth committee for like about almost a year now.
It's amazing. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, these guys are my rock star clients. I mean, they're not even really clients. They're kind of just, I do this for fun.
Yeah, yeah.
They do a great job. It's great to work with them. They're always great testimony. I don't know if you've been able to see them actually testify. They do a really great job.
I've seen y'all testify in the Senate Human Services and Reentry Committee. I'll tell you what, Senator Darnielle, she loves you all so much. And she is like a big champion for juvenile rehabilitation issues, youth issues. And Noelle Frame loves you too. You know, and I've seen you down in Olympia and I've seen you testify. It's wonderful that we are, you know, having that happen. I want to see more of you get elected too. So that's when it's going to be super awesome. And we're not going to give up on that vision. I'm not. So.
Well, if they get elected, they better be nice to me as a lobbyist.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have some questions real quick? I don't know how much more time you have, but I want to make sure they get some time for questions.
Yeah, I have till 12:30.
Okay, great. Rod, do you want to ask a question? He's still over eating his food. They're always eating their food when we have this because it's at 11:30.
So when you first got out, what step did you take to becoming a legislator? Like, what did you do? What motivated you? Because I know there's a lot of obstacles you probably faced with all that stuff on your record. You saying, what made you not want to give up? Like, what kept pushing you?
Yeah, thank you for the question. For me, it was that I had two kids who I knew if I had like two options. Believe me, there was times I was working at Burger King and making $9 an hour. We were poor. They were garnishing my paycheck to pay my LFOs. I wanted to give up so many times. And I thought, yeah, I started to think to myself even like, you know, maybe I can just sell drugs, but I won't use them this time. And maybe I can, you know, make money. I was trying to find a way to hustle money, you know, and I was like, oh, it started to scare me because I know that I will get caught. I'm not good at hustling without getting caught. So, and then I started thinking, you know, the pain of like being away from my kids was so much, you know. I hope none of you have children, but you know, it's hard to even miss your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, your close friends. But when you are a parent, for me anyway, there's an extra responsibility. Like I'm supposed to be taking care of that. That's my young blood, you know, that's my baby. And so when I was in prison, the pain of missing my kids and knowing that they were going without was more than I could ever handle. So for me, it was like, okay, I could go this way, or I have to figure out a way to get out of this maze, right? And for me, that was higher education, because I knew with higher education, opportunities would open up. And I didn't know for sure at the end if I would be successful, but I decided to go to law school. And that's, I just kept pushing every barrier, and I reached out and got a lot of support from people in the community, strangers, because I don't have a strong family of origin, but people in churches, people in recovery, healthy adults I found to help me get over these barriers and walk through the pain with me. And I couldn't give up, because I had these kids that I don't want to see go down the same path. And I have to break these generational cycles in my family. So that's what kept me motivated. And then everything just kept growing from there. Every small success I had, I was successful on, my first semester of law school grades. And then I was successful in the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then all of that led to me running for office, after I had met so many people. And that's really what got me into being a legislator.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah. So you said you have to go to Supreme Court exactly for, I didn't exactly understand that part.
Yeah, so because of stigma and discrimination on criminal records, it's hard to find a job in a lot of ways, a professional license. The Bar Association was the same way. When you go to law school and you graduate, then you have to apply for your license to be a lawyer. And at first they denied me. They said no, because of my past. And we appealed that decision to the Supreme Court, and Justice Mary Yu, who I think a lot of you might know her too. We have a great Supreme Court right now who's doing all kinds of great things. I know we just had a recent case saying if you're under 21, you can't be given life without parole, right? The Supreme Court is awesome right now, but Justice Mary Yu was the person who wrote my opinion, and all 9 of the Supreme Court justices agreed that I could become a lawyer, because we fought and we showed the research on recidivism and how adverse childhood experiences leads to criminal justice and all of that, and we won. It was great.
So Representative Simmons, just real quick to add on to that also creates what's called a precedent for anyone else coming in. So because part of what this is also learning about the process. You've got the legislative process, then you have the governor signs it, then the agencies implement. So like DOC and CYF implement the laws. But then when there's questions, it goes to the Supreme Court. And technically when the Supreme Court makes that decision, that sort of becomes the new law.
Yeah.
And becomes the way things guide. So this opened the door for all of you to become lawyers if you wanted to.
Yes.
Okay. Another follow-up question here.
Yeah.
When you were going, did you have to be off parole? Like, were you on parole?
No, I wasn't on parole. My last prison sentence, I left work release and didn't have any community custody. But I mean, I don't see a reason why you couldn't go to law school while you're on parole. Or do you all have JRA? Do you have parole when you're done, or are you under the ISRB or under DOC?
I'm under ISRB.
You're under the ISRB. Okay, so you'll be on parole, which is very rare. We don't have very much of that in our state. So how long will you be on it for?
Life tops.
What's a lifetime?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, about becoming a lawyer in that circumstances. It's still an individualized process, and I don't know if they will allow that if you're on parole, but it's something that we could talk about when you come home.
Okay.
And investigate some.
Well, Michael, you don't need to worry about that for if you want to become a lobbyist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nobody checks our backgrounds anywhere.
No.
Nobody checks it. Lobbyists are just members of the public.
Yep. Yep.
We might have to check your background, Carolyn.
Guys, I've listened to your stories. I've listened to Representative Simmons, and I think, okay, I grew up in a fairly privileged household, but I had choices that I made, and most of the time my choices were made to go one way simply because I knew I'd get caught. When you said that, I was like, yeah. So I told my son when he came home, stole a candy bar from Safeways with his group of friends, and interestingly, all his friends were of color, and he was the white guy, and he got caught. but he didn't, but they just slapped him. He had to pay his mother was meaner to him than anyone else.
Yeah.
But I just looked at it every time he would say, I'd say, you always get caught. Stop. You're just going to end up, so I think it's that fear that I had implanted in me that maybe isn't always implanted.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can check my background. Sort of.
I have a question. I don't remember the bill right off the top of my head, but it has something to do with like if you have a straight sentence in DOC, like if you have a straight sentence and then getting community custody outside of your sentence, wouldn't that have to be in your standard sentence range? Like, are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with that. Are you, Carolyn?
I'm not. I'm trying to remember. Was that the one you guys brought up earlier? I forgot. I don't have my notes sitting in front of me.
That was just something completely different. I just wanted to know what I was talking about.
Yeah. No, I'm not familiar with that. Sorry.
No, but I did have a question earlier, but you answered it when you first introduced yourself. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
So you're a legislator and a lawyer?
Yes.
How does that work?
How does that work? So the legislative session only meets, for 60 days in a short session, 105 days in a long session. So when I'm done here on April 25th, I'll go back to my day job. And my day job is actually, it's an organization called the Civil Survival Project. And it's a nonprofit that does a mixture of things. We do organizing, leadership development, legislative advocacy, and legal services for formerly incarcerated people. So all of us that work there are directly impacted, formerly incarcerated, and we do all of those things and support formerly incarcerated people in getting involved in exactly what you're doing, civic engagement. And then we also do legal services. So when people are eligible to have their records vacated or get relief from their court fines and fees, or legal financial obligations, or they want to become a lawyer or a nurse, or need a professional license and their criminal record is a barrier, that's the people who we're fighting for and we represent in cases like that.
You guys have any other questions?
Silver Survival Project.
I have a question for you if they're not going to ask one, because you brought up the school resource officers, and having been a mom, I mean, watch sort of, well, and I think back just growing up, people get in fights, and I remember the days where they just fight, and the gym teacher or the football coach would kind of let them fight, and then both people were in trouble. Now it seems to be an arresting offense.
Yep.
There seems to be a police officer. Is there any discussion at the legislature about whether or not there needs to be police officers in every single school?
Yeah, I, haven't been able to start that conversation this year because I got elected in November and started in January and just reached and we were limited, but I definitely want to have that conversation. I think there might have been a bill that said you can only have a police officer if you have a school nurse or a school therapist, but I don't think it got any traction. I'm going to have to dig into this a little bit more over the interim, but this is exactly what I would love to see police taken out of schools. I find it such an easy way to get kids just as involved when they're right there. These things that used to be after school detention are now criminal records, and then that gets kids caught up. And I mean, I know when I went to juvenile detention, I met more kids that we came up with great ideas to do when we got out. Like, it's not the great answer to do that.
Well, and I think also just making every single little thing that you do when you're that age a crime, because there's people, because we all know kids do a lot of stupid stuff.
Yeah.
They need to learn rather than be punished sometimes. So,
yep.
Anybody have any more questions? So we don't get too into the mom to mom thing,
I know.
Yeah, I believe that's
what? No other questions? Well, Representative Simmons, thank you so much. I know it was greatly appreciated. And I think, Michael, when you get out, you can always get in touch with me. These guys know my email, so they know how to do that. And I can put you in touch with people because I keep up with, if you guys are willing, I keep up with you after you're out too. In fact, I just saw Jacob is going to be a father. So I've always had mixed emotions when I hear about it. He's like, you could have, 2 more years would have been good. But anyhow, so it's fun to keep up with you guys after you're out too, for me, but I can definitely help you get connected with legislators and other people that can keep you involved and help you maybe move forward into something you want to do.
Yeah, be great.
And I
There's
know
also there's the formerly incarcerated college graduates network too, that would love to support you if you have higher education goals. Lots of people willing to mentor you and to help you get into college. I think that is a great way to find a new path and connections too. But it's not the only path. There's lots of unions that will hire you. And if you want to build some stuff and make some good money, lots of union, there's so many opportunities. Just don't give up and take it one day at a time, and stay away from negative influences and build a support system. Even if it can't be your family of origin, there's other people who will step in and be your family. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, this is our last one for this year. So I will keep you updated on what's happening with the bill. I think it's going to get concurrence. I think the governor's going to sign it. I don't think there's a problem. The governor's not doing, we can't go in person, unfortunately, but I can let you know when it's going to happen. And maybe we can do a Zoom or something like that to go along with that. But definitely we can maybe talk over the summer about some stuff you guys want to work on next year.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
wanted to tell you, I passed a bill this session that now, Michael, right when you get out, you can become a registered voter, even if you're on parole. So that's good. Before, if you were on parole, you couldn't be a voter, or if you were on community custody. That's my bill. It got signed by the governor last week. So now, as soon as you leave 24-hour incarceration, you can vote. So make sure you do that.
All
And
right.
Representative Simmons, if you can email me, so maybe some of the other bills that didn't pass and stuff, and I can send it to them too. There might be some ideas where we can work together.
Sounds good.
Does that sound good, guys?
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Take care. See you
All right.
soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. I will see you. Hopefully, I'll see you in the summer. But I'll be keeping in touch and let you know what's going on with the bill. Okay?
Appreciate you.
All right. I appreciate you. Talk to you guys later.